Someone.
Yeah.
Right.
Just
When I find out the dates of the
Happy with that.
show, I'll let you know.
Yes and no.
You guys turn down your thermostat at your house. I know, that's why I'm like, it is cold in here and we turned it to 45 degrees.
I think they turned it down when I was in here and
That would be your mom.
What was it?
I watched her because she was stuck like me.
Yeah, how you doing?
Hey, you too.
I love it. Everybody in this room too.
Oh my.
All right, yeah. Yes, sir.
This thing is almost still on artwork.
Not yet. I took it off the wall.
Are you on?
It's a mega agent mastermind. I don't
Y'all,
think it
everybody
matters.
owns
I mean,
You need a hand.
No, I didn't think I was a register, but then I remember.
You're like me, carrying it.
yeah.
All right, ladies and gents, let's dive in. I do have something I can coach on. It's come up in some conversations lately with some of you, but I thought, just for discussion's sake, do we want to talk anything about the market or what you guys are seeing and how we can win? I know some of you are losing clients because of the market being as tough as it is, and so do we want to talk about any of the finance programs that you guys have been using to help sellers that are also buyers? Do we want to talk multiples? Do we want, so I want you to guide the conversation because this is for you, not me. And then otherwise we can dive into some coaching tips as well.
Coaching tips.
Wanna go straight to coaching tips?
I think so. I'm the only one that opens my mouth.
Well, I appreciate that.
Sorry.
Well, because the other day our team discussed, we had 10 offers on a $375,000 townhouse, and we found it interesting that not one of them was a cash offer. And the seller actually took a 5% FHA because they went $2,000. They had an escalation clause of $2,000 higher than any other offer. Right? So a bunch of the agents on our team went, oh my God, okay, maybe we should go back to escalation.
I was gonna say,
Right?
I stopped using them.
I know. So Brooke's client, she laid them all out for the client, and that's what the client chose. So, are there any tips like that we're seeing that could then turn around and help you go win in a multiple offer, right?
I've always been curious about this. It's one of the questions I ask from experienced folks is the cash value of cash in the modern market. Because to me, I'd rather have a thing with more money at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And obviously there's the escalation clause problem, that you bid more than your mortgage is gonna be, but the cash value of cash in today's market, especially with the assurances from finance companies and stuff like that, I don't get it.
Well, there wasn't any cash offers on that, but I would agree. We've also, I'm sure just like you guys, we've run into ones that are, cash offer, let's say is $360 and the finance offer at $370. Well, then you go back to the $360 and say, well, if your buyer will do $370 cash, it's yours, right? But I'm sure just like all of you, we're seeing parents of kids pay cash for the houses and then turn around and the kids financing it from the parents or the kids financing it to, with a lender after they win with cash, right? And we're also starting to see some other, I don't know if anybody's heard of Accept.Inc. That's a cash offer program. I know, New American has their form of it. We've had Onward kind of get introduced into the office, and a lot of people started to use that. People signing listings from just simply using the conversation of using Onward. Now, somebody might not end up using it, they might not need it, but just making sure that we know the difference between all of our options so that we are a fiduciary to our clients, right? So I don't know if anybody else has anything to elaborate off of what Jason said, but.
I'll just say, I had a listing that last weekend, 255 townhome, 12 offers, none of them were cash. Wow. No escalation clauses. But one thing I did see is one of them did a $2,500 signing bonus to the seller that they would get 2 days after if they signed that night. And they happened to be the highest offer.
That is
Wow, that is amazing.
So that's what they originally
Has
went with.
everybody heard that, right?
Yeah.
So for
Yeah.
everybody, it's like-
Because then they don't drag out a multiple offer situation for 4
Well,
days.
Well,
Right, like if they sign it.
It worked out because we went live on Friday at noon. We did opens on Saturday and Sunday and had highest and best Monday at noon, just because they were out of town and then they work.
Yep.
So the offer came in, Sunday night, and so that they had it expired Monday night.
Yeah.
Is when it was.
Okay.
But that one, we didn't end up going with that one because the interesting part of that one was they sent me the letter from, a big bank, can I just say?
Yeah,
Wells
yeah.
Fargo.
Yeah,
And so I called the lender, they didn't call back. I called the second time, they didn't call back. And so I called the agent and I said, I'm presenting to your sellers at 6 o'clock and I cannot get a hold of your lender.
Yeah.
They need to call me. And then, and the numbers on the lender sheet were different than what they offered on. They were saying 20% down on the offer, but the lender sheet was saying 5% down. So I'm like, there's a lot of crazy stuff. And this was with a big agency real estate.
Yeah.
So I call and get that, and I just say, look, then when I finally do talk to the lender, she had not verified assets, nothing. And so I went back to the agent, I go, this is what I have to tell my sellers. So then they scrambled, got Edina Realty Mortgage to pre-approve them, talk to that guy. Anyway, they changed their offer so many times that my seller's like, you know what, I just don't feel good about these. I emailed her and I said, did your buyer ever have enough funds to support this offer you originally did? Because they kept changing it. And she's like, no, she said, no, we were just trying to get a signed purchase agreement.
What?
Wow.
So she admitted they couldn't afford it?
Yep, and so then
That's
I called the new lender and I said, okay, and I read to him the email. And he's like, well, I think she misunderstood what you were asking, is what he said. So then he had her husband call me because they have a husband-wife team, and he just said, we were just trying to do whatever was most important to your seller, which they wanted the appraisal gap, because it was significantly amount of money over.
Yeah.
And
And are you guys asking for proof of funds on the appraisal?
I asked the
appraisal
agent,
gaps
or
when
not
you're-
the agent, the lender, if they have funds for it,
When you're on the listing side, are you?
That's a cool tactic.
but.
I mean,
So
that's
the
insane.
2,500 signing bonus, is that added to the price of the home or is
No,
that cash?
They wrote an addendum, that said that they will get an actual personal check from.
That's really a great
from
idea.
the
I gotta take a
buyer.
note of that.
Directly
But is
to,
that-
directly to the seller, and it was gonna be listed on the HUD, showing a previously paid expense.
Is that like compliant?
I believe so, because at that point, they would be a party to the transaction, or I'm no broker, and I think you guys, most of you probably know, I walk the line a little bit when it comes to things, I never cross the line, and I think so, because they then, when the purchase agreement is signed, they become a party to the transaction. So,
Yeah, it has to be on the Alta,
well, not if they're cutting them a check.
has to be on the Alta.
It did say,
she was
she
saying-
did write it in there, they were gonna put it on the Alta as previously paid.
Oh, as previously paid, okay, sure, yeah.
Otherwise, that's under the table and that's
I
not
brought a
allowed.
friend who might be able to answer.
Oh, no, we don't want
Oh,
the broker's
no.
opinion.
And I default to John anyway.
Okay. Lisa, received a bunch of offers on her listing and you were in multiples.
Yep.
Yeah, okay, and, in the purchase agreement, they said that they would give the seller a $2,500 signing bonus if they chose that offer.
And sign tonight.
And
Within
sign
a
it,
time
and
period.
sign it tonight, yeah, with the deadline.
Non-refundable earnest money, it's more legit, easier.
That's
Well,
exactly where my brain went. I mean,
Earnest
just
money
call it
doesn't
a,
mean anything anyways, right?
but
What
just
about
call
a
it a
non-refundable?
deposit.
What a-
This is
what
a
a,
non-refundable deposit.
deposit? Yeah, that actually, so we've seen those, okay, maybe.
And
maybe the
builders
same
use
versus
them
the signing
all
bonus,
day,
like
every
deposit.
day. They call it a construction deposit, not earnest money, so it's very industry standard.
Just all needs to be on the Alta at closing.
Yep.
Yeah.
There
Okay,
you go.
well, there we go. All right, we got the blessing of the broker.
You have my blessing.
Okay, good. So I gotta take a note of
Don't let
$2,500
it send me
signing
to
bonus.
real estate jail.
What's that?
Don't let it send me to real estate jail.
Oh, we won't.
Because if
we
I go
need
there,
you.
I'm just gonna work on.
You heard the applause when you said I missed the last 2 meetings and did you miss me? And the whole room was like, oh my God. I'm not sure if they missed you or the alcohol in your office.
Probably not.
Probably both. No, that's really good. And then the escalation clause, so just because you're not cash, well, in that scenario, none of them were cash, but they weren't 20% down conventional, and they got it at 5%, with escalation clause 2,500 above. So, I think we just have to remember all of our options, right? So that we can work with our clients and serve them at the highest level, right?
Add more listing agents requests require no escalation clauses.
Have you had them? Yeah.
Otherwise, they're just gonna go to your top one and say that's your highest best offer.
Yeah.
I think it
See more of
depends.
that.
Yep. All right, anything else with offers that we want to talk about? Any of the finance programs onward that you're having success with? Anybody using that in their listing presentation? Yeah, we are too, and getting listings because of it. Want to share anything that you're doing?
Yeah, we just closed one with Onward. It was great.
Yeah.
Super smooth.
Anybody have any?
Can we talk about Onward a little bit again?
Please.
We kind of forgot what it is. So,
Yeah, sure.
is this the one that Dean was talking about at one point?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, yeah, so, do you want to speak to it? Since
Is
just
it
closed
similar
already?
to the buyer accept?
It's different, and from, depending on who you speak to, better. They came and they spoke, a couple Tuesdays ago, right? We might have a recording of the Zoom that we could find, but, what's that? Yeah.
Oh, wait, was that the one that?
Katie, I think we screwed up the time somehow. It was
Yes.
John Casper's last week,
I
and
didn't realize that.
Victoria
was
set it up for
Onward.
this time,
I was
and,
there.
yeah, oh, you were there, okay, that's okay,
I
so,
forgot.
but that's okay, I mean, there's so many, right?
Yeah.
Do you wanna share your experience?
Yeah, my understanding and based on what happened with my client is she got approved with Onward. She was then able to pull 80% of the value of her current home, purchase non-contingent. We lined up the closings. And then, as far as I know, she didn't have to pay any extra fees. Onward just essentially acted as her lender.
And they didn't buy the home
Correct.
initially, like.
Yep,
So that's what's
exactly.
different
And
from
it has to,
the-
exactly. So what I understand with some of the other programs, knock, maybe Ryan's, I don't know
It is-
those details.
Yeah,
There's
buyers
those
with
that- There are additional fees because they're either purchasing the home or you're paying for the ability to be non-contingent. Had we not been able to line up closings though, and that we almost did have to bump her sale, which would have then messed everything up,
Right.
she would have owed about $6,000 in fees.
Oh.
So
Okay.
it is, you wanna make sure your client knows upfront that this, you certainly can get an offer accepted and then wait and put your house on the market, but you're gonna pay for that.
Right.
We had it so that she got an accepted offer and we had her house on the market within a few days. That then was under contract, and of course, buyers will do just about anything right now, so they met our close date.
We just, Jason Oliver just had a purchase agreement, I didn't get into detail because I didn't have time to ask him about it, but, if the seller chose this buyer's offer, they were, offering them 2 tickets to a wild playoff game, lower level.
Oh, I saw
And
that.
it said,
I saw that too,
uh,
Ashley
$1,000,
Colson.
yeah.
oh, okay, so somebody, it's okay, so it's maybe not his, he probably saw it on
Okay,
social media.
Or maybe a,
Yeah, but tickets are worth $1,000 a seat apparently.
yeah, and there's no guarantee that they're gonna make it.
Yeah, that's right.
If they do.
But if they do, then they got the, I mean, so it's like, is there anything, I mean, I've seen like tacos,
Yeah.
for at your favorite restaurant
Yeah.
for,
I had
a year of
a
your choice.
chiropractor client who offered services.
Yeah. It's like, what do you gotta do to stand out, right? Okay, what else? Anything else with, offers, financing, winning, losing?
Is anybody finding that their cash offers are now lower because they think cash is king, so they're gonna come in and seal the
Lowball
deal
a little
because,
bit.
yep, my Denison property, lowest offer. She was like, it's a cash deal, just go ahead. I'm like, no, this finance conventional came up at 30,000 higher than what you were. Oh, my cash buyer just thinks I'm like, well, good luck to you.
Yeah.
All of a
Cash
sudden,
buyer
there's
can do
this
whatever they
stigma
want.
that, I have cash, so
Well,
cash
that's
is
like what
king.
Jason was saying, is what's the cash value of cash?
Yeah.
It's not like you can come in and lowball and just
Yeah.
because you've got cash, it
Yeah.
doesn't mean
I
anything.
think that is kind of the mentality of some of them.
Some people,
I would
yeah,
agree,
feel like, yeah.
we've seen that too.
Yeah.
Now, did you, they wouldn't come up, or they
Nope, I
didn't
gave
have?
her the option, I said, if you wanna come up, you're
30.
yep,
Yeah.
you're significantly under, but she also wanted some verbiage about that easement thing, and I'm
Yeah.
like, the other people are willing to assume everything.
Yeah, right.
So,
Yeah, so there's clearly an example of somebody that thought that cash was entertaining, not in that scenario.
Yeah.
Not to those sellers.
Not to those sellers,
Right.
yeah, not to those sellers.
Exactly.
And it's the seller's decision, right? It's our job to negotiate, or facilitate, or give
Do what they want.
Yeah.
For it.
running on a little bit of lack of sleep. Okay, what else? Anything else on that? Otherwise, I thought, since we're probably all working 7 days a week and, you know, we're up to our eyeballs in stress and clients and probably mindset and lack of counterbalance, I thought we could just talk about what we can do to stay healthy and keep our mindset strong and figure out how to have a little counterbalance in this business. Tito's? I hear ya. I wanted to run to Hendrix on Monday night and I didn't, and I'm glad I didn't.
Right.
You know, and I wanted to last night and I didn't, and I'm glad I didn't, right? I hear you though. I hear you. So who has anything that they're doing that can offer up some suggestions on counterbalance, so we don't lose our minds in this business? Or get frustrated and, you know, continue to lose more clients because we're not, you know, keeping our minds strong.
Use leverage of other agents. I mean, you have to get away, and you don't, like Tina Workey and, I don't think she's here, Kristen Rezak, I will pay people to do showings for me, but the three of us kind of have a thing where it's like, you know, we don't pay each other, we help each other.
Right.
So, yeah. Okay.
Hello?
Do you wanna do some showings?
I
You wanna
will,
get
but
paid for some showings?
I don't even care if you pay me, I'll just go do them, just
Okay.
to get out there and see
Yeah.
properties.
Yeah,
and-
it's good to know, and I actually,
Spend my
Taylor
nails.
Allen, who was sitting here, who's a newer agent, you know, he helped me out one day and my buyers seemed super happy with them, and so I sat down with them and I'm like, hey, let's work out a thing, not that he's not gonna be on my team or anything
Yeah,
like that, but can I kind of count on you as my go-to and
Yeah.
don't feel like you have to every time, but he does, so whenever I need something, he's my first go-to, because I know he's willing and able, and sometimes he's not available, so then I go to somebody else, but.
I want to touch on that because I know I work extensively with PC agents. And we have talked to them about that on a regular basis and the importance of them being in the office to build relationships with you guys so that you can feel like, because they understand they don't know you and you don't know them, so what's the value? But in the long run, if they get to know you, there are opportunities like that can happen, and it is something we talk about in the PC classes, so you guys should just be aware of that.
Yeah, and obviously we want to be able to feel confident, just, you know, and I'm sure they've said this a million times, but just feel confident that you're taking good care of our people, you know, because the last thing we want for our clients is to feel like they're being handed off to somebody and then, you know, they don't have a good experience with, or they feel like doesn't want to be there, or, you know, whatever, so, right, yeah, that totally makes sense to have, be in the office
Yeah,
and get to.
and good suggestion on leverage, right? Like, it doesn't even have to be that you're out of town. If you just are planning a family night or what have you, like, get coverage, right? Like, you can, you can
Okay.
still,
All right,
you
good
know,
to
you can
know.
still leverage that when you're not physically out of town, right?
Yeah.
What else? What else are we doing to find counterbalance?
Try to take a
Counterbalance.
couple mile walk every day outside and then turn my phone off at 8 unless I'm in negotiations.
Turn off your phone at 8 p.m.
Yeah, well, it actually turns itself off now.
Super.
It's non-negotiable. Unless I'm negotiating.
Yeah, and speaking of that, like I just met with some new buyers tonight, and I tell all my clients that I like to shut my phone off at 7 o'clock, which I don't, I really don't, I'm like always on my phone. But that, so
Expectation.
if you, yeah, I just set that expectation, and so that if you, I said, I always say, feel free to text me anytime. I said, I've had nurses who work overnights text me at 2 in the morning, and that's totally fine, it doesn't wake me up. And if I'm sitting around at home and doing nothing,
Yeah.
and you text me, I might get back to you. But just so you know, I usually like to shut my phone off after 7 o'clock. So if we're, like John said, if we're negotiating, I'll be there. But otherwise, if you need something and it's not like dire, I'll get back to you the next day. And I feel like they feel better knowing that. And then I tend to be one of those people with anxiety who was like, oh my God, they texted me 10 minutes ago and I haven't gotten back to them yet. And so then I can feel relaxed because I've already had this conversation with them.
Use
Well,
the
you're-
do not disturb, you don't even see that, so.
Yeah,
you're right.
and I don't, but
You should.
I turn on mine at, it's on at 8. Well, many of you know that I go to bed by then anyways, but yeah, I don't, If I wanna look and I wanna respond, I will, but otherwise I don't need to see a text come through.
And I don't know if you know this,
Do not disturb.
but it tells me, when I go to text you and you've got that on, it tells me you have that on.
I think it's something that we need to change if we haven't, and then I'm coming to you next based on your comment. Is that when we meet with clients, like, look, you know, it's a crazy market right now, and I need you to respect the fact that I am with my family after 7 o'clock every night, and I'm sure you can understand that because I start at 8 o'clock in the morning. You don't expect to hear from your dentist or your doctor or any of those other professionals, so quit letting your clients run your life.
We also work Friday, Saturday.
Exactly.
I mean, like, God, like,
Yeah,
if I wanna take an evening off with my family,
yeah,
I shouldn't have
You know
to
what,
feel
and
bad about
anytime
that.
I say that to people, they're like, oh my gosh,
course,
yes.
yeah.
totally.
And so that's
It's
just
our
like,
own expectation.
yes, exactly.
Well, it's us just letting our clients control us instead of us being the
Yep.
leader and telling them
Yep.
how it's going
Yep.
to be.
And the thing is with a lot of things that we do, just say it like there's no other option. Don't be, well, I like to shut my phone off. No,
No.
just like it's normal and
Yeah.
there's no option. That's just how it is.
Yeah.
They don't know any better.
So when I said, how are we finding counterbalance, what was your response?
I'm so not.
Oh.
So how do
She's
we,
rearranging your office, that's how.
Yes.
That's how you find
You gotta come
counterbalance?
see it now.
It's all new again.
It's all new again.
Jeez.
It's all new.
No, I'm not. I mean, you know, I'm super great as I sat down and I'm like, 5 new listings coming. This is fantastic as I'm sitting at a hotel with my grandkids. They are swimming and I'm on my left. You know, grandma. Yep. I have a new listing and I had an offer accepted, but there's no counterbalance. I'm right back where the frantic was.
Well, and I know, you know, we're working on that. Through some of our conversations and, you know, potential future team members and whatnot. But I could coach you right now, but what is everybody else gonna suggest to your fellow team member?
Jason's raised his hand.
Oh, sorry.
I think there's some important things that I would think about, and this comes from 2 different conversations I've heard Gary speak about. And the first thing he says is, you're making a calendar, the first thing you put on there is your time off.
Yep.
That's the first thing you put on your calendar.
Yep.
When you are not going to be working. You'll work around that, that's just how your job works.
Yep.
But that's gotta be number 1, that's why you're working. Those things are the results or the fruits of your working, and if you get that messed up, then you end up backwards. And I think the second thing, and I know it's super challenging, but the discipline of your own life, which is often hard to manage, but the discipline of your own life is what controls that ebb and flow. And to a certain extent, you know, where you have to really examine, what is it that I want to do? And what are those times? I mean, so you can communicate them in advance. Because if you haven't even set the standards with yourself, you can't set them with someone else. And so that's where it starts, is what's right for me?
Yep.
How much time am I willing to devote to this? And then there's that other part, and I think you and I have talked about this before, and you've mentioned in a couple different places where, what's the difference between a goal and an expectation? And I think for rule followers, they're the same. And if I want to reach my goals, if I don't reach the goal, it doesn't even matter what it is or where I set it, I have to do whatever it takes to reach that thing. But there is a difference between goal and expectation. And understanding those two and being able to be accepting of yourself and what you need helps you to set your own time frames and your own parameters, right? And I mean, if any of you, I can't think of anybody off the top of my head in this room who's done it, but sometimes people ask me, hey, can you do this? And I say, well, I can't do it at that time, but I'll do it at this time or that time. Which one works better for you, right? 3 things happen in that conversation. 1, I reestablish my boundary.
Yep.
But 2, I told them what time would work best for me, and they take the option. So I've literally regained control of the whole situation in that context, right? And you guys all work here, so I don't need to do you, but like vendors and stuff like that I have to talk to. Well, you're trying to sell me a product. This is backwards. I don't work for you.
Yeah.
You work for me. So when you're talking with your clients, you know, maybe I can't do it tonight. Would tomorrow at 1 or 2 work better, right? And then suddenly they're like, oh yeah, well 2 would work great. And they're super excited because they got what they wanted. What they wanted was to know when this is going to be resolved. not necessarily the immediate resolution.
Well, and looking back, I had things, so 2017 is when I got into this, doing this. And I was looking back today, I shared a post of kind of, the market was pretty much the same. You don't want to buy until you sell. I'm like, gosh, I haven't been an agent in this environment where it hasn't been frantic, where it hasn't been urgent now. So in my mindset, because, right, so it is a hard switch because they could go with someone else. If I don't respond, everything always has been urgent, or, they could go with somebody else. So that's, you're gonna, oh gosh, what is this?
Oh, this is a coaching model. This is one of the 6 personal perspectives. And we're gonna get back to some of the basics around this market center, and one of them is the 6 personal perspectives. And if you've never just walked around the market center and looked at the wall art, it's all by design. Now, some of it's updated, and we'll work on that when we get a few more things and put in place, like hire a team leader and stuff. One of the 6 personal perspectives is called going from E to P. Who knows what it means?
Employer to, P is production, I can't remember,
Oh, good.
or employee to,
He was
To. Maybe check this out.
I sure can, I love to.
Please, since you know how to do it and I probably don't, I always screw it up and it always
What is
gets
it,
checked out.
Lisa?
I was thinking like profit, but it's,
Professional.
Entrepreneurial to purposeful,
oh yeah.
right? And what gets in the way? What is this thing that's like right about here? These markers.
There's more on the bottom.
That one? That one?
Oh, I did legs of the trainer. I like the ones that don't give you a headache. This one does work, because I just used this in an interview the other day. What's this line called? Anybody know? Besides you?
I love this stuff. This is what I want to bring this.
These are real conversations. This is called the ceiling of achievement, okay? Besides the 2 of you, everybody else in the room doesn't know. We don't need to teach you how to sell more houses, right? You don't need to know how to sell more houses. You know how to do that, right? But what happens is exactly what you just said, right? I've never known anything different than a frantic, crazy market. So what are you doing? You're bouncing off the damn ceiling of achievement over and over and over again. And how do you break through to go from entrepreneurial to purposeful? And if you don't know the answer, I'll tell you, right? Leverage is one of them, right? And this is hanging on the wall outside of Tina Werke's office, but it's leverage, it's coaching, it's models, it's systems, it's accountability, right? And so if it's like the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. It's the same thing. We can be entrepreneurs, or we can be extremely purposeful in everything that we do. The reason why I didn't run to Tito's or Hendrix on Monday night is because I knew I had to get up and go to the gym the next day. And I knew that if I turned to a couple of cocktails to make myself feel better based on what my day was like on Monday, it would screw up everything else. The same reason why I got up, well, I literally wasn't asleep, at 4 o'clock on Tuesday morning, I'm meal prepping so that I could stay strict to my eating schedule, so that I could just be extremely purposeful in the rest of my week, even though everything else was spiraling out of control, right? So we have to figure out so entrepreneurial, basically doing what comes naturally, right? Drive, we have the enthusiasm, we have the intuition, we have the natural ability, we're spontaneity, sure, what the hell, we'll do whatever, we'll do it whenever you want. When my grandkids are swimming, I'm gonna negotiate your offer. And I'm never gonna get that time back with them, right? We've all been there, trust me, I've been there more times than I can count. To going purposeful is doing what comes unnaturally until it becomes naturally, right? Focus, strategic options, models, systems, accountability. And when you can finally break through there, it's like the chains, not the chains, the weight on your shoulder just literally gets lifted, because you just don't give a shit anymore. Right? Excuse the French, but you just don't. Because I just, like, what did Paul say? Paul said the same thing. I don't care what people think of me. right? And so like the whole client expectation, going from entrepreneur and just being spontaneous and telling them you can do it whenever you want, like nothing's ever gonna change for the rest of the business and life and the time that you won't ever get back with the grandkids and your spouses and, you know, their significant others, right? Unless you figure out a way to break through the ceiling of achievement. And I just was thinking about you guys early this morning when I was preparing mentally for my day, and I'm like, I gotta talk to him about that, because we're all, if we don't figure out how to break through, we're gonna break through, we're gonna just crash and burn. So not only in real estate and some of those conversations, but what personally do we need to do to break through that ceiling of achievement, right? So now you know, entrepreneur to purposeful. Okay. Thoughts on that, or what can we implement from that?
I'm talking about, I went to, many years ago, Kelly invited me the first day of pool with her. And I'm like, don't. But I thought I'd go because I wanted to learn the language that she spoke in her business, because we're in two different businesses. And that's when I saw him talk about that. I don't remember who it was, but they talked about this. I took that model immediately and turned that into that it was a foundation of what we talked about, even in my other business. This is everyone does this. I guess I have a question about it in my mind, because in my mind, what actually happens when you break that fundamental ceiling of achievement is you actually eventually reach another ceiling of achievement, and the cycle starts over. But the good news is the ceiling, your ceiling becomes your new floor, and everything drops down, but you go there. And I mean, it doesn't matter what you do, whether it's you know, Gonar's here, so I love to maybe just chip in a little bit. But I mean, even at sports, you got that point where this is as good as the team is unless we do something different, and bring a new player, create a new play, do a different thing. And then once that happens, you can break through that, and then that's now where you are. And we're never going to be back to where we were. We're now here, and we can move forward and build on that. And so, you know, the questions that I think most of the people I've worked with, when they run into this and start thinking about this, is understanding that you are the one who has to punch through that ceiling. Even if it's a coach, even if no matter what tool you use, you're still the vehicle for breaking that. They're just going to give you the ideas if it's a coach, or put in play those things. You're still the vehicle for breaking it. No one can break that for you.
Perfect example of that you all would be able to relate to. Everybody has these challenges in their business, but the Market Center does too, right? Like, we have bounced off the freaking ceiling of 200 agents for way too damn long around here, right? Which is why, you know, the team leader candidate that I have to ensure that he is the right one, because I'm not going backwards anymore. I'm tired of holding the Market Center back, telling you guys that we're gonna be, you know, 400 agents in 5 years when we're still stuck at 200, right? So it's a very real thing that until we have extreme focus, we've got the same inefficiencies and systems and model challenges that you guys have in your business, right? We have new folks on the team, and so but in order to get extremely purposeful with our attracting of agents, I don't like to use the word recruiting, but attracting of those agents, we've got to figure out how to break through that, right? So it's very real for us too, and I get it. I understand where you're at. Were you gonna say something?
You do the email bombs? I get like 5 to 8 a month, if not more. Come to this, come to us, you know.
Yeah, we have in the past,
Delete,
but once we have a team leader, we'll get back to some of that. Yeah, you bet. Yep.
Question.
Yes, ma'am.
And maybe it's like for the other agents too, do you think there's some value in maybe having like a home base somewhere, like you have a home office and you have an office, right? Do you think there's value in like, you come to work and this is where everything, and when you leave everything here instead of taking the rolling suitcase with you back and forth? Because I kind of feel like I'm in two different spots.
Yeah.
And I bring everything with me all the time just in case. But sometimes I wonder, I just feel scattered sometimes.
Yeah.
You know?
Of course, I have opinions on that, but who else?
Are you saying you leave everything here so that you don't work beyond where you want to?
I guess I'm just asking, does that work for you guys? Because the times that I I don't bring it home, it's when I need it.
Yeah. Well, and that's exactly it, and you don't know, like Christina's, her example the other day where she was with her kids at the pool, she got a call from a past client and said, we wanna write an offer on this house right now, and did she plan that? Of course not, but they got the offer accepted, and so was it
Well,
worth
but to
it?
that,
You
to
know?
that point, when was the highest and best due? Oh, there wasn't. Ah, that was the one I think I read about.
I mean, I was swimming, they said, can you come check out this house? We just left the open house, so not only did I write the offer, I also left. I mean, I had adult kids there, I didn't like leave my.
Yeah, the kids are just swimming, have fun, Grandma will be back in an hour,
Right.
don't go on the slide
Hang
without
on
me.
to that life
She's a
preserver.
70s
So,
parent.
yeah.
There wasn't a sense of urgency as far as getting the offer deadline, and it was more of, I can't say, we all love our clients, and so then you're like, you're excited because they're excited, you have your laptop, so you do the same thing, like, which is weird, it sounds silly, but I mean, that's part of the office decorating mentality for me. I want to be there, I see it, and I can close the door and I love being here.
Yeah.
So then now it's kind of propelling me to, I'm just gonna bring the phone home. Or I'm just gonna, I'll field phone calls tonight, I've got to take small steps. But there was no.
I have anxiety how to do that.
Yeah, well, even like I went to St. Cloud this past weekend, that's where I went to college, met a couple college friends there. And I brought my computer bag along, because I didn't plan to do anymore, and I didn't, but and maybe not even anxiety,
But
but
in those
just.
moments though, like you have other people that can cover, right? And sometimes the bouncing of the ceiling can be people, right? If you had an admin, I would imagine if that admin knew that you were swimming with your grandkids, even though it was a Saturday, and they were a licensed admin, they could have written the offer for you. Or for crying out loud, you could have called one of the other, friends in the office and they could have done it for you. Yeah. Right? Or you could have just said, like, I can get there tomorrow night. Here's a picture of my grandkids, I'm hanging out with them.
That's what I was gonna say.
But it just goes back to those expectations, and if we expect ourselves to just always jump what everybody says, that's the conversation that needs to change from here to here in order to go from here to here.
I think the leveraging hiring an admin is gonna be the biggest thing for me. Like I sat and wrote down like, what don't I like to do? I read the book, The Career Visioning, I'm starting it again, like back to back. And I'm like, now I can actually see it instead of looking at the expense, like, okay, I don't care what this costs because it's gonna do this. And as I'm doing it and I'm reading this book, I'm like getting super excited, like, oh my gosh. Oh, I can feel the vibe that you guys talk about when you guys talk about. So I'm like, that's gonna be the leverage that I'm praying, everybody pray for me, will propel me out of this ceiling to become the floor.
And, I'm working through some things with an agent that is licensed at this office that will be doing some weekend and evening transaction help. Because Tammy doesn't want to work nights and weekends, and that's cool, right? Like she's setting that boundary and she's not doing it. Well, we will have someone else that will agree to do it in the evenings, probably Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 9 to 6, something like that, and they will be able to write offers. So then you could have just connected with them and they could have written the offer for you, contingent on the agent seeing the house the next morning at 10 a.m. And then you wouldn't even have to do anything except for communicate to that TC. Right? So I think it does just go back, and I realize I don't have that option for you right this second.
Right.
It's just that changing the mindset on how we think is where it begins, right? So, what else? And we kind of started talking about counterbalance, and then we kind of switched, to becoming purposeful, but it kind of goes hand in hand, yeah, right.
I think the other thing that Mary talked about, especially when you're talking about balance, is you are never gonna be in balance.
Yeah.
Your goal is to minimize the times you're out of balance. Yeah. And I thought that was a really thoughtful process, because you just understanding that you're never gonna actually, the teeter-totter is never gonna be level, it's always gonna be moving a little bit.
Yeah.
Your goal is to minimize the time that you're out of balance, right? Because there's probably a range that you're comfortable with, but anything that you do, I would be willing to bet that every person in this room at one point in time has said, I'm setting up an exercise routine, and that was helpful. And then a while later, it stopped, right? And that I was in balance and then I was out of balance. And your goal is to minimize that time because it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
You're gonna make those choices, but the goal is to minimize the time you remain out of balance and get back into balance and not punish yourself for, you know what, I feel really guilty about not doing all these things. None of that's relevant. You just get back, I can get back on the horse and start doing it again.
I was listening to a podcast that, I think this is where I heard it, a Jay Shetty podcast the other day, maybe you've heard this one too, but where he was saying he doesn't talk about having a work-life balance because there's no way to balance it, but I can't remember what word he did use. Have you heard that one?
Was it just counterbalance in general? Because you're never gonna be fully balanced. And
Yeah,
I've always loved Gary's teeter-totter analogy, and I think I've used it with a few of you in the room, where picture one of those teeter-totters at a park, right? When two little kids are on one, they bounce, and then the other one goes up in the air, and blah, 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 right? Like Gary says, if the very middle, if this marker is the middle, of the teeter-totter, you gotta figure out how to have one foot on each side so that you can be completely counterbalanced, so that you're balancing your business and your life and your fitness and your kids and your grandkids. And you're never gonna be fully balanced, but yet, like, what happens when you're all the way over here? Well, you gotta slowly figure out how I can get back to a little bit of counterbalance. And we all do that differently, right? Like, sometimes it's the gin, sometimes it's the cabin, sometimes it's the Cheetos, right? Like, it's the time off, it's shutting off the phone. We have to figure out how we can get more into that counterbalance. But I love the analogy of the teeter-totter, because you gotta figure out, obviously, if you have no business, a couple of you have been in that position 3-4 months ago, and now you're swimming in business, but you were over here like so hanging out so much personally, and you weren't doing anything, you know, business wise. Then we got you back now, and now you come over here and you're all the way over on, you know, the business side. So it's, what can we do to counterbalance our lives and getting back into that, because you won't be totally ever balanced. That's a good point. What else? What have you learned, or what are you thinking about that we can implement from today with counterbalance or mindset or expectations or clients or what have you? Or Tito's or gin or whatever.
One thing I was just gonna say earlier, look at your situation. If you like really just breathe and take a step back, when you're in that moment and you're like, what is really gonna happen if I wait to do this until my grandkids are done swimming or whatever? Like, is it really gonna be that severe of a consequence, you know? Because some things I feel like can wait, but we are just, like you said, so used to going 100 miles an hour, getting done right now. But yeah, some things really can wait and it will be okay.
And that's the relearning of the process of the last 5 years.
Yeah.
So whatever it is, of like, okay, that not everything really is
Yeah.
it's an emergency, but at what expense is this an emergency? And it's relearning.
Well, I think even from there, it's training your mind. There is no such thing as an emergency in real estate. Stop saying it, right? So it's not an emergency. It's, okay, well, there's no highest and best. If you have built good rapport with the listing agent, it can simply be, I'm with my grandkids this evening, so I'll be there at 10 o'clock tomorrow. Keep me posted if anything, you know, comes in, type of a thing, right? So it's just changing the expectations with ourselves first and then the clients.
totally aside from everything we're saying here, I have from 12 minutes ago, a breaking news thing from CNN saying Fed raises interest rates by 0.5 percentage point, its largest hike since 2000.
Thanks.
Well, so how are you gonna handle that?
Better be talking to your buyers.
Yeah, in the past, when they've raised, I've reached out to buyers and said, you know what, you better talk to your lender and see if anything has changed. And he got back to me and was like, yep, now my 300 is now 290, and so. And I was thinking today too, I don't remember what exactly I was thinking of or whatever, but in talking to people and talking about, you know, is it still a good time to sell? Yes, of course it is. You know, I mean, it definitely is. It's still a strong seller's market, but and are interest rates rising? Yes, they are, but they're lower now than they're gonna be at the end of the year, you know, and, you know, that kind of thing.
How long have you been in the business again?
Almost 17 years.
17, okay, that's what I thought. Besides you and I are the 20? 22, okay, well then you guys remember ARMs. Is anybody talking with their client about ARMs? We are.
Do something early because the rates go back down.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Adjustable rate mortgage is an ARM for the newer folks in the room. We have some folks that are doing 10-year ARMs. They know they're not gonna be there in 10 years. It was, I think, what got us in trouble years ago was the 3 years and the 5 years, of course, right?
The
But
balloon payments,
what's that?
the balloon payments
The
that
balloon
came
payments,
in,
yeah,
or
right,
the readjustments that were
Right.
on there that people didn't understand.
right.
But they're
So-
doing arms at 10 years now?
15s too. So that could be something that you could put in your,
Especially for your
Tool belt.
military and your reload buyers, I mean, they're not here that long.
right? Yeah, so I mean, again, I think it's, yeah, it sucks that, interest rates just went up, but I think it's how we handle it too, right? Like there's other options and, if they're renting, it's
Still
still,
cheaper than renting.
yeah, 25% more expensive to rent in the Twin Cities than it is to own, so is it expensive? More expensive because interest rate just went up? Maybe. Depending on the situation, right? So, okay. What else?
I have something I'm gonna do. I'm gonna schedule my vacation.
Okay, good, perfect.
I mean, we talk about things that you can do. I mean, it's such a simple thing, but it isn't. I would, have you thought about that? Well, I used to manage people's vacations because I ran a store and you had to manage people's vacations. And every year we would get to the end of the year and they're like, I have a bunch of vacation days I gotta take. And sorry, we got none left because everybody else is taking them. You know what I mean? And luckily, that's not an option or a concern here. You can take your time off whenever you want, but do you?
No.
But do you
They don't.
really? Even when you were given a budget, people did not schedule their vacations first. Take that step, figure out when you wanna do things, and then you can do them.
Yeah, so like for me, don't call me, don't text me, don't email me, because I'm not gonna get back to you. Colin's family is coming to town, and we haven't seen them in 2.5 years. So, they're from Canada and we can't go there, they couldn't come here for a long time, we still can't go there, right? So I just won't be working. So we have to have it scheduled, right? Purposeful. Entrepreneur to purposeful. Hey, go schedule your vacations. I didn't mean to end on like a wah wah. Anything else you want to cover?
No, Jason's gonna bug me for when we're going to vacation. and
Perfect. When will you know?
have to Figure out a date.
By Friday at 5?
Gotta go on vacation with him?
Usually.
Okay.
All right, so now you have a whole room of people that's gonna hold you accountable. Sarah hates when I do this to her, so.
But I get stuff done.
But you get stuff done. Okay, so when are you gonna have it booked by? Friday at 5?
That's you. I'm always.
I just hate it. I don't know why.
You want us to tell you where you should go on vacation?
No, I did even just picking dates. I mean, even if we just stayed home or we talked about going on to my sister's house.
Okay, so by Friday at 5, do you think you could know where you're going and when?
2 days. Just say yes or I'll come sit in your office.
Sure.
Okay.
And if that's not a perfect example though, I mean, honest, to commit to picking a day to go on vacation. But think about that in your own life. I mean, it's true. It seems like it shouldn't, it's ridiculous, and yet it's real. It is so real. Because we don't like to put ourselves first.
Well, you gotta get over that,
Because ain't nobody else gonna put you
ain't
first.
nobody else gonna put you first, let me just tell you.
Put
Nobody
yourself-
else cares about you more than you should care about yourself. Just telling you. Okay, calendar invite to Kelly and Jason. That's fun, I like this. Call 911 right now.
She was there last week too, I don't.
She told me, yeah. Okay, send your calendar. Friday at 5, accept the calendar invite, both of you. Okay.
Jason's like, Olivia, come to our house.
Make sure she
Make sure
does
it's
it.
done.
No, I'll make sure it's done. I'll be home by 5 o'clock on Friday. That's my time with college. All right, everybody.
Thank
Love you. Especially you, Sarah.
You're next.
You're next.
Is that 2, right? Oh, yeah.
Gaps are good.
So where are you going,
Why
Kelly?
it's such a pain in the butt.
Do you know where you guys want to go? You don't even know.
Well, like I said, we want to go out to Philadelphia to see my sister.
Yeah.
Well, it was starting out with just me and my girls, and then I'm like, oh, we should ask my stepmom to come. And then Jason's like, oh, thanks a lot. And I'm like, well, I guess you can come too, and my brother-in-law will be there. And then I'm like, well, Alex will be home by then. And I looked up flights the other night, and it's like $600.
Flights are gonna everywhere.
5 of us to, I mean, not my, all my kids are adults, but still, it's being paid for them.
Yeah.
And it's like 5 people, you know, my stepmom's on her own, but I don't know. I just have a problem going, I think a couple things. We never went on a lot of vacations when I was a kid, because we were broke. And then Jason and I have never gone on a lot of vacations when our kids were younger, because we were always too broke. You know, so I don't mind spending the money. I don't know where to go, and I don't know what to do, and I don't like to, when's a good time?
I do not like planning a trip. I do this camping trip every year with a good friend of mine, and she plans the whole thing. It's she and I, 2 other moms and our kids, and I literally, people are like, where are you guys going this year? I'm like, I don't know, I'll let her show up. Like, that's all I do.
Yeah.
And that's I don't like camping, but that's my kind of thing. One of the reasons I love my house, is I don't have to plan anything, I just go show up there.
Yeah. Right, right.
But when I think about, okay, there's so many other places that we could go in the country, in the world, but it sounds like so much work.
I love
Yeah.
planning trips.
Do you?
I love it.
I
But I was
really?
a stay-at-home mom for years, so that's like what I did. I was
Right,
like,
yeah.
I was a stay-at-home mom for years too.
And
My mom
it
is not my thing. Oh, I love it.
I'll plan a trip right now. Tell me what you guys think.
You're hired.
Good to know, yeah, yeah.
Or if you want any ideas too.
Okay. Yeah.
That's it too.
We
It's
go-
just, I don't know where to start.
Yeah, well, last year, Jason and I were like, well, okay, let's go somewhere in the fall. And I'm like, well, we've never been to North Carolina or South Carolina, and then we ended up going to Charleston, South Carolina for a week. And mainly because, well, we had kind of been looking at that area, and then it turns out a country singer who I like was doing a concert then, so we're like, there it is.
There you
So
go.
we went to a concert while we were down there. But yeah, otherwise, I don't know, I just feel like, you know, I see people on vacation, they're doing things, and I'm like, how do you find out what to do when you
Like,
go?
yeah, how do you know what to do in a place that you're
Yeah.
not familiar with?
Yeah.
I just asked you for recommendation.
Yeah, well, and I know with Facebook, you can put it, you know,
Yeah.
hey, who's been to this
You'll
city,
get all
or where's a
sorts of
good place to
people.
go, and everybody's got an
Right,
opinion.
yeah, what do you like?
But
What's the-
it's still just, I don't know why I find it such a chore.
I don't like this thing.
Because it's one more thing for you to do, you know.
But it's supposed to be a fun thing, and it's getting away, and it's spending time, and it's, I don't know.
Where have you guys gone to?
We've been to all 50 states, 6 foreign countries, we're doing European food this summer, so we're gonna hit that country. We've been to Central America, Panama Canal. Just go do it.
I've only traveled for like basketball or something, mostly around the United States. And I was there, I was in Spain years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Really good one. We either go on a cruise, I think we're going to Disney actually this summer. Probably go on a cruise for a while. Most things, is everything included on the cruise?
Depends what you get for your packages.
Okay.
But yeah, most all the food and everything is. There's other stuff you can pay for.
Yeah.
And always get the drink card and different stuff if that's what you,
Yeah.
if you need the
Yeah.
extra and all that, so.
I mean, just here, cruise. So it's growth coaching at 2 now?
Sarah that was sitting here, she
Yeah.
does growth coaching at 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know if there's anything, what else is after that?
And then I think 5:30, we have our PC group
Okay,
at 5:30.
okay.
Sounds like a big mess. Okay, we'll see what happens for next one. Yeah, they will, thank you.
So quiet. Are you gonna stay for growth coaching?
I am, yeah.
Yes. Cool. I think I need a little coffee.
Yeah, they moved our PC group to Wednesday, so it's kind of nice. I feel like I can come in and
Oh,
like make a
Just
day of it.
said
Is
that, yeah.
like,
What time is the PC one at?
ours is at 5:30.
Okay, so you'll just stay.
Yeah, I'll just stay and then
Yeah.
just work on stuff and research.
If you can, why not?
Ooh, which reminds me, I need to scan something to Tammy. God. I just like, today I can't even keep track of everything. Like Wednesdays are great because there's a lot going on here, but then I like don't get my other stuff done, you know?
Right, you feel
So
like
it's
you're-
like, yeah. Oh. So how long have you been an agent for?
It will be 3 years in August.
What do you think was the biggest thing you did when you were new that helped you kind of break through to like get to
Get business.
Yeah.
How long have you been licensed?
since beginning of February?
Oh my gosh, so when I met you the first time, you must have been brand. Yeah. I was thinking you weren't that brand. No, so if you don't have a, if you don't have a ton of business right now, don't worry.
Yeah.
Like, if you're worried about it, 'cause that's really cool. I think the big thing is, like, just don't be shy about talking to your agent and asking for business. Because like, I know initially you feel like you're bothering people or annoying people. Do you feel like that?
Yeah, that's the big thing.
Are you big on Facebook?
I wasn't, but I'm like trying to be now. Like I've had to make a whole switch because that just wasn't my thing.
I mean, if I wasn't in real estate, I probably wouldn't post so much of this, you don't care about that much. But start posting stuff, market updates, whatever, advertise someone else's listing. You don't even have, you don't have to say it's yours. You just check out this new listing. You know what I mean?
Right.
Start direct messaging people. Like, one thing that I started doing last year, I should do another one. I like make a video. I'll post some viewers video stuff. Another one. But basically, I was just saying like, Happy New Year. Hope year 2022 is great so far. If you want to sell, I would love to help you out. And I feel like that like works better than just a message. But if you don't feel comfortable with the video, start with just a message. Hey, just working for a real estate agent. I would love to help you. I know you know. Don't feel like it's pressure.
I feel like I'm getting a lot better at it. Like the first like 6 weeks or like 2 months here, I was literally like, I just want to cry in the corner. Like, because it's like, not really, but you know,
It's
just
a
because
lot,
it's so much to have to like
I know
put yourself out there.
Trust me, I don't like being like, yeah, I don't like being myself up there. I mean, I've got words now, but I know how you feel, like you're annoying people, a lot of people, and that's fine. Half of them, more than half of them, probably won't respond to your message. That doesn't mean they're not seeing it. Right. Well, you can see if they see it on direct message on Facebook. But even like your posts, like I had someone reach out to me yesterday who never did talk about real estate together, and she's like, we want to go to the house. I was like, I didn't think she'd ever reach, you know what I mean?
Right.
So,
Because you're kind of staying in mind. Like that's one thing. Like how do I stay? Yeah.
I just think social media is great for it. And you can do like mailers and things like that, but social media is great. And you're starting out, you don't spend a lot of money. Like, because it's got the value way to start out. Because everything, you know? Yeah, so. And of course, just your sphere, like focus on the people that you already know and that already like trust you and like you. Did you do a mailer like when you first got your license, say that you were? I know they used to do it like
No, I reached out to everybody. And I did like a twin schedules on my sphere. I
You
did
did?
different ones because I did golden letters and then everybody that reached back out to me, then they got a twin schedule a lot later. So I'm trying to strategically put stuff out there.
Good.
So I'm trying to work on
So you
some.
are spending a little bit of money, but.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, yeah, no, that's good. Just don't like go crazy with spending money and shit, that's bad thing. Okay. But I think those mailers are good. I do like the sensations, letters, it's the monthly recipe. Do it like with a calendar, a magnet, if you want or not, I feel like, yeah, do magnets, they're gonna go in the fridge.
Right, some that they're gonna keep in there, like,
Like
even if it
it's
ends up in
like-
a junk drawer or like that, like I feel like. You're still there.
And like Sarah will say, anything, they slide your name on the envelope, if they just go through it, you know what I mean?
Right.
So you say something.
What I thought too is we've recently relocated back to Minnesota too, and we're in a different small town, and so it's like trying to like. Yeah, that's the thing, like, who even know I live here. So.
I need to be better, like, even about, like, with my neighbors and my neighborhood, I'm still like, cause like, I live in a townhome, most of us like kind of keep to ourselves. I sold one of my neighbor's homes, but then I saw a couple more go up that wasn't me, that was like, oh my god, that should have been me, you know?
Right.
But if they don't have an agent, and they don't know me, why would they use me? So I can't handle it. So, just put yourself out there and don't feel like you're bothering people, you are truly here to help people. You're not like trying to pressure them to make it because they're not ready. Right. You're just letting them know. You're a real estate agent, and you can help them.
Yeah, that's right.
Hopefully it'll help.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I just feel like in the handful of possible buyers I have right now, like, I just
Yeah.
think with interest rates and stuff, everything going up, like, they're kind of all like gone back into the wing, so I'm just gonna keep nurturing it a little bit and just stay in
Yes.
touch, but.
Stay in touch for sure. And it'll happen, like, even this year, I feel like it's been harder for me, to be honest, than last year. Just the business isn't coming as easy. It's picking up now, but like the beginning, it's like, oh my God, what's going on, you know? But if you just keep at it, like, the stuff that you're working on will come to fruition eventually. It just takes time. And that's what can be kind of like scary in this industry because it's coming out. But you'll be okay. It's just like, you got it, honestly. Don't give up. Definitely don't give up yet. It's way too early to give up.
it.
Yeah. Good job, Matt. I feel like when I drink coffee here, I don't know, it's strong and it makes me like, oh, but.
We get jittery.
Kind of. I don't know. My coffee at home, I just have like instant coffee and I swear it doesn't do anything to me.
Oh, really? Yeah. I can't live without my coffee in the morning.
Yeah, sometimes I go on a kick with like Starbucks caramel macchiato. That's really strong though, because that's like espresso.
Yeah, that's what my daughter gets too. She
Oh.
loves that.
So good.
Do you have any certain companies you recommend for like mailers or just like postcards? What was the one you said?
So the one I told you about with the calendar and the recipes, that is Sensations.
Sensations.
Like send SEND stations, all the word. So look into them, and then Markful or whatever, I think it used to be House of Magnets, is who I do for like, I don't do the twin schedules, but I do the Vikings.
Yeah.
Have you heard of Markful? It's MARKFUL.
Okay, FUM, Markful?
Yeah, I wanna say they used to be House of Magnets, but they're now called Markful, and they've always been good. And I think like the product turns out good every time, so. I did use, whatever the other popular one is, once a
I did Magnet Street for.
Magnet Street. I didn't like that one as much.
I did it, but then I got them all sent to me and then I had to mail them all out.
Oh, I'm not
because-
doing that.
Yeah, no, because I don't have just a
Hi,
growing
Margaret.
database, so, you know what I mean, like, and then I had other ones, like I didn't have it all quite everything
Yeah.
organized yet, so that's just not the way to do it.
No, when you get to the point of just them mailing it, just seriously pay for it. That is my recommendation. Don't even worry about that part of it. It's just so tedious.
Yeah, that's
Like you can spend your time doing something better, like more beneficial.
Okay, my husband and I do a lot of car shows, so I wanna get sponsored by signs with my name and stuff on them, just to set in the cars.
Totally.
So when we're at a car
That's
show,
great.
somebody sees it, they just see it.
No, something that you're like involved with like that, I think that is so awesome to like network that way for sure. Network and advertise.
Cause if we bring like 4 or 5 cars to a show, then he's like, hey, you can just sponsor all of them.
So these are your cars?
Yeah.
You guys have that many cars that you bring to these shows?
Yeah.
What kind of cars do you have?
He's got a 65 Oldsmobile 442 that is a complete Fremont restoration, all original.
It's like, why do I even ask? Cause I don't even know what this
Yeah.
is. But I still wanna hear.
We got it in California, it's a California car. So
Okay.
anyways, it's nice. And then, it's a complete trailer queen, it's just that it comes out.
Yeah.
on the trailer set, so. And then he has a lot of different Toyotas, like old Land Cruisers and
Okay.
he's got an old Jeep and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, that's fun. No, you should definitely try to incorporate yourself with that. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, I think something that's just kind of like passive advertising, people see it,
Yes.
but there's no.
Do you know, like, these car shows, do you know a lot of people that go to, like, all of them, or like, you know what I mean, do you know?
Well, like all the small towns have them like, they have roll-ins like
Because
every,
you kind of already
like
know
once a
some of the
month,
people.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a good way to just sort of get people to stand out there.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah, because we're way down in Waterville, so it's like 50 minutes.
Okay, you might have told me that. That was pretty far.
So yeah, so it's pretty much like all small towns. And I feel like
I know
everybody-
I've heard of it, but I don't think I've ever been there.
No, there's no reason to go there.
Yeah.
So,
Like, what's the population, do you know?
I think it's like 18 or 2,000 around that. It's mostly, yeah, it's got lakes, that's where we bought because we've got a lake property.
Oh,
there. So yeah,
okay.
but that's why people go there this summer.
Okay.
It's a big lake.
And that's probably why I've heard of it, I'm assuming. Okay, 15 minutes to email my clients about my staging recommendations. I'm not a stager, but I'm just like, whatever. They don't need a ton of stuff done, so like, I'm just gonna do it. And then also scan stuff to Dan. Finish it.
Hi, how are you? Good. I was just listening to Olivia talk about taking time for yourself and vacations, and I'm thinking, I'm on the other end, I need to stop taking vacations and
Oh,
for myself. And I was like, you're killing me.
No.
Yeah.
I don't think you should ever say you should.
Well, that's true. Never say that, but I'm like, I can't speak up because I'm in the other boat. My vacations are all planned for the year, honey.
That's awesome.
I'm adding on.
That is so awesome.
Especially with the weather we've been having.
Oh my God, I know.
Oh.
But today it's like nice.
I know, and now I'm inside all day. I'm like, oh.
I know, right?
I'm like, really? What happened? It's supposed to be nice now here for a little while, so
I thought next week, one day it's a high of like 77.
I'll take
That
it.
is summer, yeah.
I can do that. I know today I was like, and then the reality this morning, I was like, oh my God, now I need to shave my legs if I'm gonna wear a dress. I was like, I haven't said that here in like months,
Right.
so. I'm done with these pants.
I almost put on a dress today too, and I was in that same boat. I
But
was like,
then
oh,
the
I don't feel
reality
like
was, I was like,
shaving.
oh, I was all excited it was gonna be nice, and I was gonna wear a dress today instead of, and I was like, oh, no. Too funny. Oh, a little rain this weekend, huh?
Holy cats, there's that gal, Jenny. Maybe the lap.
It was supposed to rain on Sunday? Yes.
I am done with the rain.
You know, last year, I felt like it rained a lot, but it only rained at night, like while we were sleeping. Like, I remember going for like the daytimes were great. And I remember the night, like it would storm like every night, which is fine, right?
Yeah, I just feel like we haven't seen this that much. Like,
Well-
I just wanna see it.
Yeah, that's also very true.
Oh, yeah, it does say Sunday.
Smell like sewage in here, or is that just
I don't
Smell
smell
like-
like you.
I smell like sewage. No.
Where have you been, Jason?
Believe it or not, I've been digging around in the basement.
Sewage. Oh, I asked my clients about your house, your property that you have.
Portland?
Yeah, did
I
you
have
already?
that other townhome too, I don't know, were you here for the TBD?
Yeah, I heard you
So
say
have
something, I was
another-
gonna ask you that about that
Yep, I
too.
have another one, I
Is it
just got that one signed last night.
In that
Also
same
with-
area?
South Cross, so still
Oh,
Burnsville,
yeah.
close. And this one is N unit, but 222 has a loft as well.
Okay,
I mean, like the other one's a quad, so those are technically all N units,
right,
but this one is like an N unit, you know, in a row.
okay.
They're both really cute homes.
Yeah,
well
I
taken
put
care of.
one of their daughters in that Portland area
Yeah.
last year, and so they were thinking, well, we're going for a temporary since we can't find what they really want, so,
Okay.
they were thinking of buying one,
Oh, we should see an area.
like, same area,
Mhm.
so they're twins. The other daughter just has one coming on the market this Friday that we're gonna go see, that's like,
I'm
next
an
door
old
to
man, but
her.
I'm not that old.
Okay.
But
I might have been born at night,
that's
but
what
it wasn't last
sparked
night.
all of it,
People
so,
ask.
so I think it's an option for
Well,
them,
let
for
me
sure,
know.
so I'll let you
So-
know.
Yeah, they were out of town, they're back in town now. We are gonna start looking for their next place like ASAP.
Yeah,
Like, but I don't know if I told you, so I was just kind of seeing what the
What the-
office
yeah.
thought about. If nobody here writes on it,
Uh-huh.
we'll probably just wait to come to market until they find the next house.
Yeah.
And then put on market like.
it'll
right
go
away.
quick.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but if someone here, yeah, and then I got that other one signed last night too, which is also the 2-2. So remember I was talking about the bedroom situation? Is their bedroom? No, it's like a loft. There's no door. But they called it a den with the last listing. I'm like, no, this is a loft in my mind.
Well.
We're not saying den, because a